ॐ वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य आणीस्तः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासि अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ ॐ May my speech be accorded with the mind. May my mind be accorded with the speech. O self-effulgent one Brahman, reveal thyself to me. May you both, speech and mind, be the carriers of the highest truth to me. May not all that I have heard depart from me. May I be able to join day and night through this study. I shall utter what is verbally true. I shall utter what is mentally true. May that Brahman protect me. May that Brahman protect the teacher. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto you all. Good morning. This morning I am going to speak on a very important and interesting subject in our spiritual life. It is self-enquiry. In Sanskrit it is called Atma Vichara. In Indian philosophy, there are mainly three types of approaches to spiritual goal. One is Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. Second is path of Jnana, the knowledge. Third is path of karma, the work. And there is another fourth, the path of Raja Yoga is a contemplative approach. This Atma Vichara or the self-enquiry is the path of Jnana. We know that in the path of Jnana, the meditation as we understand nowadays, that kind of meditation has not been prescribed in the Upanishad. Upanishad is the one of the important spiritual treatises in Indian philosophy of Vedanta. And the meditation we consider or understand nowadays, that kind of meditation has not been prescribed in the Upanishad. We find in Upanishad the Vidyas or Upasanas. Upasanas are considered as meditation, but the present nowadays what we consider as meditation, the Indian type of meditation or the meditation of Raja Yoga, is based on Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So that kind of meditation is called Patanjali Yoga Sutra meditation. In Upanishadic age or in Vedantic age, the Advaita concept of spiritual attainment is self-enquiry. You know, the fundamental difference between the Eastern approach and Western approach towards spirituality is this. According to Western concept, the human personality is dichotomous or dichotomous. Means it is a dichotomy. Body and mind, the two things. But according to Indian philosophy, it is a trichotomy. It is a three. Body, mind, and behind body, mind, there is the self or spirit, which is called Atman. In Buddhist philosophy, Lord Buddha, he did not accept this concept of third entity, which is called Atman. According to Indian philosophy, except Buddhism, all other 6 philosophical schools, they accept this concept of Atman, the third entity, and they consider that spiritual journey means to realize, to understand, or to attain this Atman. So this Atma Vichara, this is from here the word Atma came. So Atma Vichara means self or Atma, the inquiry. How can we attain the Atman, or how can we understand Atman? This is the description of spiritual practice for attaining Atman or to understand Atman. So it is the Jnana Marga or the spiritual practice in the path of knowledge. It is a purely the subjective technique which dispenses with every kind of object and objectification. You know, the fundamental book, the basic scripture of Advaita philosophy is Brahma Sutra, explained and written by Shankaracharya. So in the introduction of that book, Shankaracharya started with Asmat Yusmat Pratyayaha, means you and me. That means the subject and object. Asmat means I and we. And Yusmat means you. So the philosophical concept starts with I and you. The difference between this subject and object. What we see, everything is the objectification or object. Even our thought, the concept of our body, the concept of our mind, everything is considered as object according to Indian philosophy or Vedanta. Only subject is the self or Atman. That is the only subject. So in this Atma Vichara or the journey to realize the self or Atman is the technique which dispenses with every kind of object and objectification. It is an attempt to turn away from all objects and move backward towards the self. I have mentioned Upanishad. One of the major Upanishads is Katha Upanishad. In that Katha Upanishad, a very famous verse is there. It is said in Sanskrit, I shall translate it in English. Paranchi khani batrinath sayambhu tasmat parang pashyati nantaratma. What we do? Parang pashyati. Parang means outside. So we always see towards outside. God created this body, or however, those who do not believe in God. So our body is made in such a way that all our senses, we have 5 senses of work and 5 senses of experience. So all these 10 senses are set in such a way they can grasp the experience or information from outside. Our eyes, we cannot see inside. Our eyes can see only outside. Tongue, we can taste only external food and etc. We cannot taste what is the taste of our within. Skin, we can touch only the external things, not our inside. So all our senses, here we can hear the external sound, not the internal sound. So all our senses are set in such a way we can acquire information, collect information from outside. But kaschid dhiraha, only few wise person, what they do? Pratyagatman aikshat. They turn. Pratyag means inner. So turn their senses within. And abrita chakshu, they closed their eyes. And amritatyan ichan, to get the bliss, eternal bliss. Amritatya means the eternal bliss. Only kaschid dhiraha, very few people, they can only turn their senses inward, close, as for example, close their eyes, and they try to find the within. So this has been given the instruction in Katha Upanishad. We find that this is very important. So that is the technique. So this is the technique in which the negation process of neti-neti find its most practical application in Atma Vichara or self-enquiry. There are 2 approaches, One approach is called in Sanskrit iti iti. This is that, this is that. And another is not this, not this. So in this way, if, like what is the ultimate goal? God. We don't know God is he or she. We don't know God is young or old. We have no concept because we have not seen God. So the point is, in this case, there are 2 approaches to understand the ultimate reality or the absolute. One is, this is this, this is this. So God is everything. So yes, this is God, this is God, this is God, this is God. And another, no, it is not God, it is not God, it is not God. What remains is God. We don't know, but what remains is God. So in these 2 approaches, the Brahman, we cannot explain Brahman. So the best approach of Brahman is neti-neti, or not this, not this. And in this spiritual process, this Atma Vichara, self-enquiry, this neti-neti process, not this process, is the most practical application. In the quest for this true self, every other thought and knowledge is discarded. The very tendency of mind to conceptualize is given up. any kind of objective thing. I have mentioned that thought is considered as the object. Only the self is the subject. So everything objective or object has been completely discarded. Obviously, then Atmavichara is not mananam. In Vedantic practice, three things have been instructed. One is Sravana. You are listening to my lecture. And then what you will do? If you are serious, you try to think on it. Listening is called Sravana. You are contemplating on this, called Mananam. And then deep contemplation. You are completely merged with this idea. A kind of meditative mood is called Nididhyasana. So Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. These are the spiritual practice Vedanta prescribes. In Upanishad, you can find this Sravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. So, Manana is the reflection. So this process, the self-inquiry, is not a kind of mananam. Why it is not mananam? Because in this process, it is trying to go directly to the self, not through mind. Generally, we perform mananam, the reflection, through our mind. So if we get trapped in our mind, then again there is a snake trail. So we have to travel in disguise, maya, all kind of things are coming because our mind is most disguising element. We cannot believe in our mind. Because, why? It is simple because right now I am thinking these things, immediate afterwards I shall think another thing. There is no consistency, there is no logic, nothing else. From the morning you have decided that after listening to this lecture, you will go to some store to buy something. But when you just step out from this hall, you will think, okay, not today, maybe tomorrow. See, any moment our mind may change. Our mind is just moving like a pendulum. That is the nature of mind. In Sanskrit definition, it is called Sankalpa, Vikalpa, Manaha. Sankalpa means do this, and Vikalpa means not do this. So doing and not doing. Our mind is swinging between these two extremes. This is called mind. So we cannot believe in mind. So Mananam is the practice through our mind. So here in this self-enquiry is directly hitting towards the self. So it is not the attempt of converting an indirect knowledge to the direct knowledge. So what is indirect knowledge? What is direct knowledge? So realization of Brahman or self, Atman, is the direct knowledge. What is indirect knowledge? Indirect knowledge is the knowledge we gain by taking help of something, by some means. What are the means? I am reading this book, or I am seeing these chairs. So this is the knowledge. I am getting the experience, the knowledge. But for this knowledge, I am using my eyes. through eyes, I am seeing this, taking some help. If I have some experience by listening something, then I am taking the help of my ears. Everything in this universe, if you think very carefully, we get knowledge or experience by some means. That is called indirect knowledge. So what is direct knowledge? Only one case we can have the direct knowledge. And what is that? I exist. I am aware. Any means we shall take the help that I am aware or I exist. Please think. We do not take any help to understand I exist. I exist, that is enough. Nobody, if the whole world stand against me and say, no, you do not exist, I don't care. I know I exist. That's all. So this awareness, I shall come to the awareness point again, and then you can understand a little bit better that this awareness, nothing is required. So this is a direct knowledge. So the knowledge of Atman or subjective knowledge is the direct knowledge. Everything is object, only the Atman is subject. So subjective knowledge is direct knowledge. So it is not the process of changing indirect knowledge to direct knowledge, this self-enquiry. And so this is a kind of direct and special and is very direct kind of approach. This Atma Vichara is not thinking about oneself or brooding. It is not brooding also. Because thinking means, again, objective. So it is subjective, direct subjective. Thinking means objective. It should be noted here that Buddhists who did not accept or do not accept the concept of Atman, I have mentioned that. So these Buddhists also, they started their spiritual journey from the ego. And then at some point, they came to the conclusion of emptiness, shunya. The Buddhistic conclusion, the shunya. Nagarjuna philosophy is the shunya, nothingness. So, from there they came to the conclusion by vichara, by thinking or by inquiry. They came to the conclusion. So this shows that vichara or inquiry should be conducted only after gaining the sound understanding of the doctrine of Atman, which is described in Vedanta. So only then we can start the vichara. Vichara as a technique of self-discovery was first developed by the Upanishadic sages. And we can find the clue in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The rishi of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the sage in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, is Yajnavalkya. And Yajnavalkya had a long conversation with his wife Maitreyi. Very important conversation. The last instruction, Yajnavalkya was a rishi, was a sage. So he was living his home and hearth and his 2 wives, and wanted to go to the forest to perform his spiritual practice. Then obviously, he gave a lot of money to one of his wives, and then another wife he also gave, but the another wife, Maitreyi, she asked, "What shall I do with this money?" Then Yajnavalkya taught her the knowledge of Atman. Very good discussion is there, that why a wife loves husband. So this kind of discussion is there. What is the fundamental concept of love? He described. The last instruction, Yajnavalkya, we shall take this for our discussion, because here is the clue of Atma Vichara, self-enquiry. The last instruction, what Yajnavalkya gave to his wife is Vijnanataram arkena kena vijnanyat, means how to know the knower. Very interesting. How to know the knower? I know this table. I. So who is the knower? I am the knower. How to know the knower? That is the clue of self-enquiry. In 2 ways we know things. Obviously by perception we know. There are other ways also. Basically, according to Indian philosophy, there are 3 means of knowing or experiencing. Number 1, perception. Number 2, inference. And number 3, sound. If somebody taught me something, so I know that. So these are the 3 means. Now when we perceive something, we can have the knowledge. This knowledge are 2 types. First, I know this table. This is the knowledge. This is the table, I know that. This is the first type of knowledge. The second type of knowledge is, I know that I know this table. This second type of knowledge only human being can have. Animal, they cannot have this kind of knowledge. They have the first type of knowledge. I know this table. I know this. But I know that I know this table. Only human being has this kind of knowledge. So, this is the way to know the knower. How can we know the knower? That is the question Yajnavalkya posed to Maitreyi. Try to understand the knower, not the known. Everything, you see, our attempt to understand, here is the basic difference between science and spirituality. Science tries to know the objective world. I know this. But spirituality, especially Vedanta, they try to know the knower. I know this. So though Jaggavalkar did not give a clear-cut answer to this question that he himself raised, the self-inquiry must have been practiced for centuries. So what is the way? How can this self-inquiry know the knower? We'll proceed, we can do. One very common thing, there are various ways we can do that. This morning, I will mention you only one process. There are different processes. So only one process I would mention this morning. One of the things is, it is now, if you go to the YouTube and if you go different medium channel, you can find this is very popular nowadays. Who am I? The process of who am I? So try to search who am I and go take the cue from there and follow the trail within, and what is the source? Am I the body? And it is the process which is called, in the book, it is there, written by Shankaracharya. The name of the book is Drik Drishya Viveka. So in that book, you can find the verses are there. Am I the body? Then argument is given, no, I am not the body. Then who am I? Am I the mind? So in this way, they take the cue and they went behind. I am not going to describe, this is not my point. This is one of the ways. I shall describe here a different way. So this is one of the ways. However, good to remember that self-inquiry is not an intellectual process. Because I have mentioned, intellectual means we are using our intellect, and that is the objective thing. Go directly to the subject. I, awareness. Try to find the knower, the awareness. So, this is intuitive process, and unless medha, there are three intelligence in Indian philosophy. The one is smriti. Sanskrit is smriti, means the memory. Without memory, our intelligence will not work. So memory, it is very ordinary. Everybody has an outstanding memory. Then there is called dhriti. Dhriti is high intellect. As for example, I would say Einstein and Newton. So all they have dhriti. And the spiritual intellect through which you can inquire yourself is called dhi. That is why those who are familiar with Gayatri Mantra, the second line of the Gayatri Mantra is Dhiyo Yonav Prachodayata. So it means, it is a prayer, so prayer that this Dhi intelligence, let Dhi intelligence initiates us. Prachodayat means initiates us to the goal. So unless we have the understanding ability, high understanding ability, which is called dhi, we cannot understand this experience. Because it is very high level, philosophical and subjective, subtle and high level understanding. So dhi is required. So that is why the purity is required. So you have to develop dhi, it is required. However, This morning I am going to describe you the technique which is called Pratibodha technique. And obviously, all the spiritual technique, especially the Vedantic spiritual technique, any Swami describes from the Upanishad. We cannot go beyond Upanishad, and all the other books like Drigdrishya Viveka or Viveka Chudamani or all these kind of books is nothing but called Prakarana Grantha, which is a supporting book, helps us, preliminary books to helps us to understand Upanishad. So the technique I am going to describe you this morning is called Pratibodha technique. We can find it in Kena Upanishad, a very small Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, in verse number 2.4. And it says, Pratibodha Viditam Matam. This is the verse. Pratibodham. Bodham means understanding. Prati means towards, not outside, inside. Pratibodha Viditam Matam. To develop some experience. This is the technique. And Shankaracharya, all the major Upanishads, Shankaracharya commented on only 10 Upanishads. And these 10 Upanishads are called major Upanishads. So, Shankaracharya, without Shankaracharya's commentary, definitely Ramanujacharya commented on that in different philosophical schools. All the giant philosophers and spiritual, obviously the seers, they commented on different Upanishads. So Shankaracharya Upanishads, it is more popular and well known, and so the Shankaracharya on this particular verse explains in this way: the self is known when it is grasped as the witness of each state of consciousness. Only when we can grasp or understand the self, when the self acts as a witness in all 3 levels of consciousness. What are the 3 levels of consciousness? We have 3 states: awakened state, dreaming state, and deep sleep state. And all these states are completely different, watertight compartment. What is my experience in the awakened state? Deep sleep state is completely different experience. As it were, we are completely different person. And in the deep sleep, we do not have any experience. So it is completely different. So those 3 are completely 3 compartments. But it is not so. If we think carefully, who is experiencing these 3 states? And if we carefully try to understand, we can understand that only one person, I, is experiencing these 3 states. The awakened state, the dreaming state, because I am thinking, I am going, the self-identity is there. In dreaming state, you can clearly identify yourself. You are running, you are laughing, you are crying. You can clearly identify yourself. You are talking with somebody else, that is little bit hazy, maybe overlapping with some other concepts or other memory, but you are identified with yourself. There is no wrong notion about you. Again, in the deep sleep state, we are aware. We do not have any experience, but when we are getting out from our deep sleep, I say, oh, I had a very good sleep. How can we know that? So, in all the three states, we have the awareness, but we cannot connect. When we can connect these three levels, the same awareness, that is actually the realization. Then we can understand that, okay, I am the person who is in the awakened state, who is in the dream state, and who is in the deep sleep state. I am constant. These are all different states. As for example, you are a father, you are a son, you are a friend, you are a colleague, you are a political person. Which one is the correct? What is your identity? I do not have any identity with all this. These are my role play. I am a man, a person. I have this different role. When we are identified with this different role, that is our suffering. Because father is suffering, son is suffering, colleague is suffering, teacher is suffering, student is suffering. But those are my role play. Exactly in the same way, I am separate from my awakened state, sleeping state. Those are the states. I am alone. I am experiencing those states. Okay, I am different from that. Otherwise, if somebody challenge that what is the correct state, what is your correct state, dreaming state or awakened state? How can you prove? How can you prove that your dreaming state is not correct, the awakened state is correct? When we dream and we consider firmly that dreaming state is correct. At that time you cannot understand that you have some awakened state and that is the original state. However, this pratibodho viditam matam is the awareness, this awareness that I am different from everything. This means that behind every thought and action there stands the silent witness self. We have that, but we are not aware of that. We have to bring this awareness. That's all. When we do something, we do mechanically. Drive. We are not aware. I am talking with you, not a single moment I am aware that I know that I am talking with you. I am identified with the speaker. But it is one of my role. I am different. I have different roles. So this awareness, I have mentioned that Vedanta doesn't say go and sit, close your eyes, contemplate. That is a Patanjali kind of meditation. Vedanta never says do this. Vedanta always says know this. So, by constantly holding on this inner witness, we can remain fully conscious and alert in the midst of our activities. The day one you start practicing this awareness, it is not possible, because every moment you will mix with you and your witness self. But it is only practice. It is possible. By awareness, only awareness. What's happened when we practice this pratibodha technique? This is pratibodha technique. First of all, it enlarges our self-awareness. And when self remains in its own true nature as the self-luminous Pratyagatman or Kutastha, we can slowly understand that something from our inner self is working. We are separate from, who is working is separate from the witness. So this, what happens actually when we think, there is a curve. If we consider our thoughts is one of the curve, like this. We are thinking and we are not thinking. So between two thoughts, there is a small gap. We do not understand that. Every moment, every fraction of second, we think so fast, and thousands and millions of thoughts. We cannot distinguish from one thought to another. If you do not want to think, your thought will come. It will rise from within, unconscious. So, but between two thoughts, there is a small gap. And that gap, you are not thinking. Blank, shunya, nothingness. That is yourself, actually. So if we increase this understanding, this awareness between two thoughts, slowly we will become aware of ourself. This technique is a remarkable increase in our self-control. So the second point, if we think, witness, and if we can try to increase this gap between two thoughts, not in this way, we are trying to think between two thoughts, no. Only witness. By practicing witness, automatically the separation of the two thoughts we can understand. We are thinking, okay, somebody is watching to the activities. So, this is the transformation of consciousness and the self-control. The Atman is not merely the source of consciousness, but it is the source of our all power and strength. This Kena Upanishad, again it is said, Atmana bindate viryam. Viryam means strength, power. So Atmana bindate viryam, Atma, the strength of Atman. I am all powerful. Swami Vivekananda said, you have all strength. Be brave, courage, freedom, strength. From where this power comes, not the physical power. We have a strong body, we have tremendous physical power. But if you are afraid of something, where your physical power will act? Mind. Mind is way stronger than the body. Intellect is way stronger than the mind, because intellect is controlling mind. The more subtler, more powerful. And Atman is the highest powerful entity in our personality. Because we have Atman, and the concept of God also. We have God. Nobody can touch us. That is the psychological security. We can get some psychological security. The fearlessness comes from there. So, this kind of strength and fearlessness comes from this kind of witness. It is the Pratibodha technique that goes under the name of Vipassana. Actually, this Vipassana technique was developed by a Burmese Buddhist monk, Maharshi Sedao, and the Burmese government official Yu Bei Khin in the early 40s. So this witnessing, in ancient India, in Kena Upanishad, we find the Pratibodha technique, the witness technique. And it came down in the Buddhist age, and it was developed. The Samyak Smriti, Samyak Drishti, eightfold teachings are there. So the mindfulness came, this watch, witness attitude, Pratibodha technique. And this is, afterwards, we find that many other spiritual leaders, or Advaita teachers, they developed on the basis of this technique, any other techniques, the watchfulness, any other kind of choiceless awareness. So this kind of technique they developed. So the main thing is that the development of the witness and awareness. Yes, we are aware. And from our experience, the interesting thing of Vedanta is this. That is what Shankaracharya says. No book can help you. No lecture can help you. Nothing can help you. Only you can help yourself. How? By analyzing your experience. Just analyze your experience. Why is this? So for analyzing our experience, our intelligence is required. And that intelligence is called Dhi. And to develop Dhi, the purification is required. Otherwise, what will happen when you will find, because it is a proved practice. When you have that awareness, the witness kind of thing, if development is not proper and you don't have that kind of strength, mental strength, you will be afraid of it. That somebody is taking, your feeling will be, somebody is prompting from inside. I am not that. So you will be afraid, you cannot understand, you cannot handle that kind of situation unless you have strength, you have purity, and you have the knowledge. Otherwise, it will be a kind of psychological problem. That I am doing everything, I am talking, I am sleeping, I am doing everything. It looks like that I am not doing that. That means you are separated at that time. So we have to handle that situation very efficiently. That is why slow development, with all-side development, it is not lopsided development. All-side development is required. So this is the self-enquiry. In this way, we can do the self-enquiry. No sitting is required. No watching your mind is required. Only the awareness. Yes, I am doing this. I know I am doing this. If you hit, day 1, you cannot. Day 2, a little bit. Day 3, we can get rid of all kinds of quarreling, suffering, stress, if we develop this kind of witness attitude. Witness means awareness that yes, self. And self is different from that. There are other techniques also, which is called Shabda Aparakshatva or Nididhyasana. There are different other techniques for this self-enquiry. But this morning we mentioned this Pratibodho technique. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkham Apnuat Sarvastarotu Durgani Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu Sarva Sadbuddhim Apnotu Sarva Sarvatra Nandatu Durjana Sajjano Bhuyat Sajjana Shanti Mapnuat Shantamucchete Bandhebhyo Muktaschanyan Vimochayet. May all be happy. May all enjoy good health. May all see happy events. May all be freed from miseries. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bondages. May the freed make others free. May the Supreme Spirit, the presiding deity of all sacred activities, be satisfied. For He being pleased, the whole universe feels satisfied. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto you all.